Hey, so you were in Pittsburgh with Alexander Ovechkin on Saturday. I don't have any questions about Ovechkin because it seems inevitable now after the hat trick yesterday
Yeah.
against Edmonton. Um, what do you make of the Penguins?
They're a long way from being a good team again. Certainly, 3 years ago, I guess they decided to re-sign Letang and Malkin, and bring that core, the championship core, to bring them back. And they're 36, 37 years old. Like nobody's the same player anymore. You just can't be. And then, when Kyle Dubas took over that first summer,
Mm-hmm.
they signed Tristan Jarry to a 5-year contract, Ryan Graves to a 6, and they traded for Erik Karlsson. And so it was clear they weren't looking into the future. Like the plan from ownership to management was, we got to take whatever run we have left. We got to do it. They're not fast enough. They're not big enough. They're not skilled enough. And they don't have a goaltender. I mean, maybe Blomqvist can be the guy, but he's just a kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to get pummeled in there until they get sorted. But Tom Wilson set up shop in front of the Pittsburgh net, and he could have stayed there most of the afternoon, right? Like they're in that stage where they're just getting through today to try and make tomorrow better. But it's one thing. So they got 30 draft picks in the next 3 years. Well, that's nice, but 30 draft picks they're 3 years away from being players, and not impactful players. 3 years after a draft, players got, that's the time they start to become a pro.
And there's no guarantee.
No, you're just so. I'll tell you, I am blown away by what Washington did in the offseason, just as a comparable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they had gotten old, and when you're a good team and you're trying to stay relevant, you get old. And they had at the beginning of last year, if you remember, they had Kuznetsov, Backstrom, Oshie. They were old and slow. 2 deadlines in a row. Brian McClellan, who was now the president but was the GM then, they sold at the deadline. And they used the term trying to thread a needle. And to not rebuild, I do love this, by the way. Nobody wants to rebuild, but they'll retool, they'll refurbish, they'll renovate. Nobody will rebuild. So, Oshie retired and Backstrom retired through injury, both of them, because Kuznetsov they moved away from. And they hit. Two years ago, they traded for Rasmus Sandin, and he's a legit NHL defenseman. Last year at the deadline, they moved off a couple of players while they were still in contention for a playoff spot. And they said, you know what? We think McMichael, we think Protas are going to take a step. They both did. Then they went and they got 6 guys in the offseason. When does that work? That all 6 of them work? And they got the goalie, Thompson, for a 3rd and a 5th. They got Chychrun and Matt Roy in 2 trade. Roy was a free agent. Chychrun was a trade. Then they got Dubois, who most people shook their heads at, Duhaime, and I'm forgetting one other forward, and Mangiapane.
Right.
And they turned the team. The team is now young and fast and big. Spencer Carberry, if he doesn't run away with the coach of the year, I don't know who else you're voting for.
Hold on, we this show's heard in Winnipeg.
Oh yeah, fabulous job. Scott O'Neill and Dean Evison are my other 2 finalists.
Yeah. To go back to Washington, and this is not supposed to be a public service announcement for the American Hockey League, but look who's won the Calder Cup the last couple of years.
Yeah.
The Hershey Bears, which is their farm team, and where a few of those guys, not all of them, but a few of those guys that they have nurtured and given them extra time at the pro level to contribute, like Protas, right?
Yeah. Last year, John, he had 3 goals in 56 games. And Spencer Carberry told us that one of the things they said when he went away was, you got to get in better shape, because after 20 seconds, I mean, this guy's a mountain of a human. Mm-hmm. After 20 seconds, you're out of the shift. You're tired. You're gassed. And so he went back home. Him and his brother work out together. They're in a kind of a small area back home, and they were sending him conditioning things every week. And he came back a completely different player because, well, he matured, right? But to your point, he was in the American League. He got the chance to play. Last year was his first real hit at it. And then all of a sudden, I think he's got 23, 4 goals this year. He's a impactful player. There's 2 ways to look at the American League. You can win the Calder Cup with a really old team, or you can win the Calder Cup or try to win it while you're developing your players. And Washington's done, it's turned out to be a masterful job. And, you know, you can still be a surprise even though you're one of the top 2 teams in the league, and I guess they are. But man, they look like a really good team. So that gets us back to going to get me to Pittsburgh again. They're miles from that. They're miles from it, because their best player is 37 years old, and he's the heartbeat of everything that they do there. And if you look at what's next, I don't see it on the roster. It's got to be coming from outside of Pittsburgh, whether it's in Wilkes-Barre or through draft picks, but that's going to take some time. And they're in a tough spot.